Dirty Dancer is saying, if Israel is responsible for the rise of Hamas, who is responsible for the rise of Likud?
Hamas. By the way, guys, when I say they're responsible for it, I'm not suggesting that they're the sole, factor, right? They are a factor, so much so that without it, they probably wouldn't happen. Also, when I say they're responsible for the rise of it, I'm not saying they consciously wanted it to happen. And I also don't say Israel, maybe say like Israeli government, because I don't want to like incriminate the entire Israeli population for something like this, right? Also, like the eventual monster that Hamas became, maybe they didn't envision that, but they did. The groups that eventually became Hamas were actively funded by the Israeli government as a way to combat the PLO, and also as a way to create divide. Here's how messed up the Israeli government was at that time, because they knew that if they were dealing with like a sane Palestinian government, then they would have to actually negotiate, and they didn't want to give in to any demands. So if they have a divided Palestinian government, especially one with radical elements, it's so easy to tell to the world, like, look at these people, you want us to talk to them, right? So it's better for Hamas to be there, so that be like, like, hey, let's have peace. And like, here's the thing, let's say I want to act like I'm on the side of like wanting peace, right? But then I actively introduce a psychopath in my opposition's group, and I put them there on purpose, and then I'm like, okay, guys, I'm for peace, let's negotiate. But then I'm like, whoa, look at who they have on their side. Really, world? You want me to negotiate with them? Them? And this is how you keep the status quo, right? So, I mean, who's responsible for the rise of Likud? Again, Hamas, Hezbollah, a lot of Fatah's dumb positions, the Islamic Republic of Iran. I mean, these people need each other. I mean, this is why I keep telling people, like, I know like they don't like each other, but technically or practically, they help each other survive. They need each other, even if they never admit it. Right? Yeah. And I'm not saying they're the same. Okay? I'm not saying they're the same. Okay? And they're like, oh, so Armin, you're saying the same? No, just because they need each other to survive, that doesn't make them the exact same. God damn it.
Yeah.
Right.
And there were people in the chat basically saying like, oh, when you say that Israel's responsible for Hamas or giving rise to it, like, oh, you're just blaming the victim. Like, that's blaming someone from the harm they caused. It's like, no, they literally funded.
No, they literally, like, I'm not blaming. Well, I am blaming, but I'm not blaming the people that actually have rockets. This is your mind on collectivism, right? When I criticize Israel and you say I'm blaming the victim, it's because you see Israeli people as Israeli government. You don't see the difference between these. You don't see the difference between Likud and Israeli civilians. Okay, guys, I don't even and when I say, like, when I blame Hamas and you say I'm blaming the victim, is because you can't see the difference between Hamas and the Palestinian people. And even if they support them, I don't see the same. Okay, I don't see a Palestinian who votes for Hamas. I don't see them as the same as Hamas. Just because people make bad decisions, that doesn't mean they're responsible. Because people, I mean, they are responsible, but they're not as responsible. And also, people make dumb decisions all the time. That doesn't mean they deserve to be unhappy. That doesn't mean they deserve to be miserable. That doesn't mean they deserve to lose their children. They don't, okay? So people like, oh, well, Israeli civilians, yeah, well, they voted for Likud. Okay, so people made bad decisions. Does that mean they deserve to have this happen to them? No. Do they not deserve security even if they have bad views? They deserve, people with bad opinions and bad views, they deserve security. Okay, the Palestinians who vote for Hamas, they're victims of their dogma, and they're also victims of the miserable living conditions that they're under. Okay, they vote for Hamas. I forgive them I forgive them. They're the product of the conditions that they're living in. Okay, They still deserve security. They deserve to have rights. They deserve prosperity. They deserve not live in poverty. They deserve to actually they have the right to self-determination. They have the right to have a government that actually represents them, even if they voted for Hamas. I'm not in a position to judge them. If I lived in those conditions, if I was so like, honestly, if the things that happened to them happened to me, I might have like done worse than what just voting for Hamas, right? I forgive people for making bad decisions, having bad views, given the conditions that they're living in, right? I don't forgive Hamas or people that are actually shooting the missiles, but Israeli people and Palestinian people both deserve to be happy, deserve to be secure. And I'm not going to say that, oh no, Israeli people don't deserve to be happy because by comparing their situation, like don't deserve security by comparing their situation to the Palestinians. No matter how bad the Palestinians' lives are, Israelis do not deserve to live in fear. Even if the fear that they're experiencing is a fraction of what the Palestinians are experiencing, I'm not going to say like, okay, so it's okay for you to not feel secure just because your situation is better than Palestinians. No, nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves what both Palestinians and Israelis are going through. Anyways.
Yeah. Palestine needs to be liberated from Hamas.
Yes, and Israelis also need to be liberated from Likud.
Hey guys, if you're a fan of Blasphemy and Sexy Callie, like me, then you need to be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below. Because if you subscribe, we will send you a free copy of our Blasphemous Art ebook. And let me tell you, it is the tastiest blasphemy that you can find anywhere available today. And we are so generous with our blasphemy that we continue to send you more blasphemy every week. So make sure to subscribe, link in the description below.